Today we will be talking about death. That's right, the one thing we all think about, but are never comfortable enough to talk about. Like the question of how SpongeBob can set a fire under the ocean. Now Socrates thought that death may be the greatest of all human blessings. Death has been a fundamental aspect of human society since ancient times, an underlying drive behind much of what we do. But what exactly happens to us after death? Or should I say, to our bodies? Well, today, unless you decide to donate your body for the greater good, there are generally two routes, both of which involve the natural process of decomposure, which is either sped up as your body is dipped in a tub of lye, or delayed indefinitely through plastination. But death doesn't have to be boring, at least not according to Mary Roach, the author of Stiff, The Curious Life of Human Cadavers. Through her witty and somewhat gross but remarkably funny book, Roach explores the history of the use of human cadavers. Yes, there's a whole book written about what we do and have been doing with dead bodies for the past 2,000 years. And what have we been doing with the bodies of our dead exactly? Well, if you are a celebrity or have ever wanted to get a facelift, you'd be glad to know that you are not the only practice plastic surgeons get. In fact, cadaver heads provide a great and tidy option for these surgeons to practice their art with a scalpel without getting bloody. But that is not the end of it. We have been shooting cadavers up and crashing them into walls, all in the name of saving more lives. You see, Roach's writing is a true testament to the progress science has made, thanks to death and cadavers, and how much they have helped us in the long run. The pages of Stiff tell stories of scientists, engineers, and many others, including, but not limited to, body snatchers. Yes, you heard me right, thieves of corpses. Now, while Roach's Stiff is a fascinating book, all 300 pages of it, it would take an extremely long time for me to retell the whole of its content, and I doubt I would do a job as good as Mary Roach. That being said, I shall challenge myself to mention all the key details that you need to know to understand the literary masterpiece that is Stiff, and be well versed in any conversation about human cadavers. Oof, it'll really blow a fresh breath into any party. As Roach reveals to us, sometimes even the dead tell stories. When the black box of an airplane does not reveal the whole picture behind an accident, injury analysts arrived on the scene to explore what the, let's call it human wreckage can reveal. Now, I've mentioned previously, apart from cutting up human cadavers in the name of beauty, or reading them as a map, we've also utilized plenty of dead in human impact studies. Now, nothing reveals more about how force trauma affects the human body than seeing its effects on a human body. I know, this is some mind-blowing stuff. But unfortunately, it seems that being propelled into a wall at the speed of 80 miles per hour is not the most appealing job. I, for one, would pass such an offer, although I have heard the health benefits are pretty excellent. With slow recruiting and the call for safer cars, the help of human cadavers who get crushed as well as living humans has been enlisted. If there is one thing that dead people excel at, it's at handling pain. Fun fact for all of you, for every cadaver used to test and develop more effective airbags, safer steering wheels, and better windshields, 147 lives are saved on average. And you thought that we only use those yellow test dummies, huh? Now, for every cadaver that we use to save lives, we've also used some for some, more questionable causes. Development and testing of wicked instruments of war, such as bullets, bombs, and landmines, is another popular employment option for the dead. These seemingly different applications for human cadavers highlight a very important characteristic of corpses. They seem to be invaluable to the study of how humans are affected by physical force, and therefore how to best protect or damage our bodies. But of course, no story is complete without a tiny dash of good old religion. You see, in 1931, my favorite Catholic priest, Father Amailhak, got Dr. Pierre Barbet to vouch for the scientific efficacy of the Shroud of Turin. And to do so, Barbet did the only thing that was obvious to him. He took a human cadaver and crucified it. Now, if you've made it this far into the book in one piece, you'll be delighted to know that the more gruesome and, more wild details are yet ahead of you. You see, scientists are actively working on decapitation, brain transplantations, and eventual reanimation. Communication with the dead may be on our doorsteps, and the future is truly here. But take us back 1,000 years, and 12th century Arabia, so-called mummified men were at the core of a strange medicinal ritual of creating sweet, sweet topical remedies. Now I'll spare you the details, but imagine eating honey for a month to then succumb to death and be closed in a coffin of honey for a century. A real treat for any illness. Now my personal favorite part is a tale of Diego Rivera, an artist who claimed to live on cadavers for 2 months. Now talk about a protein-rich diet there. Edging closer to the end of Stiff, Roach explores current research into an ecologically friendly burial option. While cremation is great and all, it also puts a lot of mercury into the atmosphere, which in my books is a pretty bad thing. What's a more eco-friendly alternative? Well, dipping bodies in lye turns them into a harmless slurry. But in Sweden, researchers are looking for how to freeze-dry bodies by dripping them into liquid nitrogen and then blasting them into tiny pieces with sonic waves. Finally, some good use for all that rock and roll them kids seem to listen to nowadays. End result is a great compost, getting rid of our dead and benefiting our trees. A great combo if you ask me. And, might I mention, cheaper and much better than cremation. Now ashes to ashes and dust to dust, Roach's book displays how thanks to the lack of sentience, dead bodies have become a true pillar of a good society. Death is an inevitable future of all humans. This fundamental human experience truly makes you realize that eventually you too will be it, a dead body, making Stiff a very relatable read. The readers of Stiff can truly get engulfed in reading as they already have this experience and thought in the back of their minds before the book is even opened. Now Roach does not shy away from placing her characters into the narrative, creating a sense of intimacy that most authors fail to create. And to make things better, Roach's humor turns this somewhat dark topic into a real comedic hit. Of course, it is thanks to Stiff that I can now sling around facts, such as the amount of food a person needs to consume to quite literally burst from being full. Now, for all of those who are interested, it's 1 gallon to be precise. Now, as Roach guides us through her book, she offers us her personal opinions, insights, and anecdotes to keep us from drifting off. All in all, Stiff is not a book for everyone, but unless you can distinguish written symbols and therefore read, or have been diagnosed with necrophobia, I strongly recommend for you to check it out. After all, this is the only book that truly shines light on how useful and how meaningful death and cadavers have been to the human society. Thank you very much.